Okay. So I've been really obsessed with this idea of knitting things with needles that are way too big. And I think it's kind of like a micro trend, but it's not as trendy as filet crochet or something like that everybody seems to be doing. And don't you worry, I'm gonna do filet crochet this summer too, for sure. But before I do, I want to try to make like a fishnetty looking dress thing with needles way too big. And I actually have a little bit of experience with it already. I made this um, with these needles that I have, which are huge. These are 20 millimeter US size 36, so these are really big. And I just bought them on a whim, thinking that I wanted to make like a netty kind of tank top. And this was supposed to be that, but I didn't swatch, and I just randomly started making something without really thinking about it, and it turned out crazy wide. So now, so this time, I'm not gonna be an idiot. I'm gonna have a better plan, and I am gonna swatch. And my plan is to use these 20 millimeter needles and still use thrifted yarn because I love using thrifted yarn. And this is 100% cotton. So yeah, I'm gonna use these 20 millimeter needles. And this is quite thick yarn. It's thicker than the one that I used before on my shirt thing. So I'm gonna make a swatch, and my goal is to make like kind of like a bodycon dress. I'm really into wearing like transparent dresses with like bike shorts and tank tops underneath. I was wearing those a lot for festivals last summer, and I really want to make one now. I might even make two if I have time. Um, but these are the yarns that I have, and I don't think one is gonna be enough. I want to make like above knee high length dress, just as like a tank top. But even so, because of how big these are, I don't think the one skein is gonna be enough. And because they're thrifted, I don't have two of the same color. So, as well as working with huge needles, we're gonna try to find a way to do a little bit of color work, which is stupid because I've never done knitted color work before at all. But I think we can figure it out. And if we don't figure it out, then you can learn from my mistakes and make it better. So, I think I'm gonna do kind of like a freehand knit crochet style where I just do a couple of rows in one color and then I switch when I feel like it and do this like kind of uneven color work situation. I really like the blue much more than I like this color, so I'm gonna primarily start with the blue and just add in a little bit of the beige every once in a while. And then if I run out of the blue, then I can put more of the beige in the hem and have the blue be more at the top. So maybe it's gonna end up looking kind of like an ombre effect, hopefully. I'm gonna try to do this like as tutorial-y as possible, because when I was working on the first piece, I looked up a bunch of like YouTube videos on how to knit with bigger needles because I actually couldn't figure it out with the original yarn. This is a different yarn that I wanted to use, and the only ones that I could find were for like making these super like thick blankets and stuff, like super thick needles with thick yarn. But that's not what we're doing. We're making it netty on purpose. So let's see what's gonna happen. I'm gonna have a slit in mind because that's how I like my bodycon, like more negative ease dresses to fit. and I'm really excited to do it, but I am in the middle of a project. I have like an almost finished vest situation. This is just like a free pattern from Drops or something. I don't remember. I can link it if you're interested. This is a seated rib vest, and I'm making this for my husband because he wanted a really deep V-neck, because he said, and I quote, a really slutty vest for summer. So this is gonna be a very deep V-neck that's also quite short, so he can show off his belly and his chest, because that's how he likes to roll. And I've already done the back piece. This is the front piece. I have like 15-20 centimeters left here, and then just the binding on the neckline. And then as soon as this is finished, I'm gonna be casting on these guys, and I will keep you in the loop. After this episode, it's bath time, okay?
I wonder where I can go. I know.
The cave. Good idea, Una. There aren't many creatures in there. It'll be lonely and quiet for a burrow building.
Nice unlimited.
Speaking of 100% cotton, I lied about my I lied about this thrifted yarn that I was showing you earlier. It's not 100% cotton. It has like 30% nylon and viscose and something in it. It's one of those like half cotton, half acrylic blends. I don't think that has an impact on anything. But yeah, I have made a swatch, and as you can see, I've decided to change the colorway. The reason why everything is still attached is because I don't have a lot of this yarn, so I'm not actually gonna like clip this and block this and stuff. I'm gonna trust that the blocking is not gonna make a huge difference, and I'm gonna frog this and use it for the actual piece because I only have this one, and I really love this color, and I want it to be enough for me to make a little dress. I made an initial swatch. I think I filmed myself knitting the first swatch for just a little bit, and I just didn't see myself wearing a dress with the previous color combination with like that sandy beige. So now I have an extra, a leftover, I think, from the vest that I've been making my husband. This is Drops Paris, so this is 100% cotton for sure. And this is just what I'm using for the ribbing on the neckline and in the arms for his vest. And for some reason I miscalculated. I accidentally bought an extra one of these. So now I'm going to use these to make this oversized or over looped. Maybe I should come up with a catchy name. But the knitting itself is big. Loop. Large loop. I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. So that's my update. This is what the swatch looks like. The Drops Paris is quite a bit thinner than the blue one that I was using my thrifted yarn, but I don't really mind it. The other update is that I've been trying to figure out with like YouTube tutorials and other resources that I have how to make a top-down tank top, like how to knit it downwards. I swear I just saw somebody talk about all their like summer top patterns and show an unfinished piece where they had made the tank top sleeves and they were about to start working the body downwards, which I think is a really good idea because then you can try on to get like the exact length that you want. And like based on what I know about knitting, which granted isn't a lot, I'm more familiar with crochet shaping than I am with knitting shaping. I know how to do it the other way around. So I think I'm gonna switch gear a little bit and play it more safe and go from bottom to top, bottom up instead of top to bottom. Because so I don't have anything that I could be working on right now that's just like mindless knitting, and I really need to start doing that. So I think I'm gonna play it safe and go bottom up, because even if the skirt length doesn't like perfectly line up with what I want, it's more important to me that I get like the straps to look the way that I want, like coming off of the body, instead of having to imagine what the straps would look like before the body even exists. I haven't made this as like tutorially as I had hoped, because I have a toddler and it's really hard to film these as I'm going, and I have a job and everything. So I might just like film vlog type clips of myself knitting this until there's another update to give you, and then maybe at the very end I will give you the whole like, this is what I did and blah 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 blah, so that if you want to try to copy what I did, there will be like a mini instruction at the very end. So now my plan is to kind of do a little bit of math based on this swatch about how wide I want the skirt part to be. And as I said, I'm gonna make a little slit. So I'm actually gonna first knit back and forth stockinette. I learned how to purl with these things, and it's not that hard actually. I'm gonna figure out how many stitches I need, and then I'm gonna go back and forth a bit, and then once I'm happy with the length of the slit and kind of imagine the overall length of the dress, I'm gonna join in the round, and I think that's when I'm gonna see you next, and then I'm gonna give a little update about the math and how everything's going and all that jazz. I was really convicted last time after we spoke that like, oh, I'm gonna film myself in fun locations making the swatch, and I think I got like one 30-second clip with a messy apartment while my toddler was watching cartoons. Yeah. Okay, so I have good news and bad news. The good news is that I went to a thrift store and I found another ball of the same exact yarn that I wanted to make this dress out of. And the color matches like almost perfectly. I don't think it's from the same batch, or this one has like just has been used and then frogged, so it's a tiny bit lighter just from like sun exposure. But I think I have enough to make the whole dress out of this blue color like I had hoped, which is very exciting because I wasn't super happy about making like color compromises. And even with the other like thinner cotton, when I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, this isn't really the look that I'm going for. Ideally, actually, if somebody's thinking about doing this, I might use t-shirt yarn. But I want to be thrifty, and this is what I have, and that's how it is. The other thing is that I'm filming in super random locations right now because I'm moving. Maybe I should close the window. I'm filming in really random locations right now because I'm moving. But I'm not moving house, I'm moving like workspaces or studios for my life job, for my real job. And this is my old studio, and I've been here cleaning it and setting it up for somebody else, and moving to a new studio soon. It's already set up, but we are gonna do a bit of a revamp to try and redecorate it in a couple of months, so I might make a video about that. Let's see. Anyway, I told you good news and bad news. Good news, more yarn. Bad news, I had to frog everything you saw me make in the previous clip when I was knitting at home. Which was because even with my swatch, I still, like, it's just ends up so much wider after you have a couple of rows. And I have remade like all of the progress that I had to frog just today. It's not a big deal because this works up so quickly. But this is what it's looking like now. Here's the little slit that I wanted to have. The reason why I had to frog was because even with the math that I did around the swatch, once it has like a little bit more rows and weight to it, it just like spreads wider. And when I hold it like this, it looks like kind of narrow, but then when I actually remove it from the needles and put it on, it like spreads even wider. So I didn't film this unfortunately, but I took circumference around my thighs, and then I kind of like wiggled around to see how much I would want there to be space in the fabric, and I calculated that I wanted to start at 97 centimeters. And my swatch was 16 centimeters. That was made out of 10. I lost the word. What is the word? What are these things called? Oh no. I'm gonna get stuck here. Stitches? Stitches. God, Jesus Christ. My swatch was 10 stitches and 16 centimeters, and since I wanted 97 centimeters, it was pretty easy math that it was going to be 60 stitches, because 16 times 6 is 97, I think. That's what my calculator told me, at least. And I made 60, and I knitted pretty much like how much I have now. Yeah, pretty much how much I have now. And when I kind of like tried it on and took it off the needles for a second, it was again way too wide. The same thing as with the other shirt. With the other shirt, I doubled down on the wideness because I didn't want a frog, which was a mistake, as it kind of always is. If you have been knitting for a long time, you know it's just better to frog if you don't like right away think that you're going to be happy with the results. So I removed 10 stitches. So now we're talking about 50 stitches. I don't know the circumference anymore, but I'm vibing that it's gonna look good. I finished my husband's slutty vest. That's how I got to this point. And I have to say that I'll insert a clip of him wearing it. He was very happy with it. I was very happy with it. I have to say that even though I really like the look of this, like I just think it's a really fun texture, and I'm super into textures. That's why I like knitting and crochet and making my own clothes, because I really like things that are like, I don't know, like that feel good for my fingers and stuff. it was really enjoyable as a process to make the vest for my husband, because it was just kind of like the seated rib was fun. I could kind of just like lose myself in it. And even though this is just stuck in it, oh my god, like working with the big needles and stuff, like it hurts my wrists a lot faster. And like when I do it for a while, I kind of get used to it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm in the flow of stuff. But it's not enjoyable the same way that I have the comfort with like 4 millimeter needles or a crochet hook, which for me is actually even more like enjoyable as a physical action. But I think I have figured out a couple of things about the technique that make it easier, and I'm gonna try to like film and show you those when I get closer to the end of the process.
1-year-old Sonny is on a roll with his training. He's mastered the basics, and now he's ready to take on some more advanced skills that will prepare him for life with his potential adopters, and his time was running out. But he knows a wonderful new family is waiting for him. Before Sonny leaves to meet his adopters, he says goodbye to Rashi and Asara. After seeing that Sonny's in good hands, it's time to give him one last.
Okay, another update from a random location. Random because I'm on holiday, yay! Which means that I have been making strides. I finished the first skein, ball, whatever you want to call it. My first quantity of yarn. And I just switched to the second thrifted ball, and I'm so happy. I am so happy. I know in the last update I was saying that like it's not that pleasant to knit, and it isn't, like in this like, oh, I'm just in my zone and I'm doing this like precision work that I personally really enjoy. But I love the way that it's coming out. Like I love that texture. Look at that. It's so nice. I definitely want somebody to make this out of t-shirt yarn. Like if you do, please show me. Let me know, because I think it just looks so nice in this cotton poly blend. Yeah. And I'm really surprised how far I got just with the first skein. I think it's gonna end up like I can kind of decide how long I want it to be. I don't think I'm gonna run out of yarn, considering this is an awkward position to show you, but like I think I wanted it to be like thigh length, which means that actually, good that I'm checking. If I want it to be thigh length, I need to start splitting it now for the armholes. Otherwise, it's gonna end up being longer. I have to properly try it on. I hate trying like things like this on. I probably even need to take it off the needles, which is boring. But yeah, I have to determine the length now. So I have all of this, so I can make it as long as I want, which is really, really awesome. And who knows, maybe I'll even make sleeves. I'm not gonna make sleeves. I tried to, or I did that for the other like big loop project that I showed you in the beginning, and like it was so annoying to knit with these long cables. I think that's the most annoying part about this actually, is like I don't know if I can like kind of show you, maybe I can show you here. But basically, because the needle is so huge, every time I start, for example, I have to kind of like first like even out the stitches, blah 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 blah, and then I have to like with my fingers push the stitches on, because this is so stretchy that whenever I move it, it tightens this really, really tight. So I have to like push yeah, and then I have to put like, I usually put like 10 on my needle, and then I knit them, and then I readjust everything and move the whole thing around and push 10 more, and and I knit. And I think that's the thing that makes this a little bit like less enjoyable, is because you don't actually ever get into the flow of just like knit, 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 because you knit a little and then you adjust and you knit a little. And I know you have to do that in a lot of projects. You have to do that when you're knitting sleeves, for example, like all the time. And I just, it's boring. I don't. I want to just focus on the knitting. I don't like the adjusting so much. So I really like doing like flat projects that where you just go back and forth, and then you attach them at the end rather than knitting in the round. Although, of course, the sewing is annoying, but anyway, I digress. Important update is that I did end up doing decreases. So this is the front with the slit. Maybe you can kind of actually see it. Oops. Maybe you can kind of actually see it from the shape that I decided to do decreases, because I realized that, again, I think the bottom of the dress was like a tiny bit too wide. And I'll see when I like properly try it on. But I realized that if I didn't decrease at all, it would be really loose also here in the top. And I didn't want, I was afraid of like having it loose in the armpits, and I don't like the way that that looks. So I did, in total, I think I decreased, I actually kind of lost count, I vibed it out. But basically what I did is that there's 50 stitches. So I did a row where I decreased every 10th stitch. So 10 stitches all along the 50 stitches. Then I knitted 3 rows, and then I did it again. And then I started to knit a 3rd row, and then I realized that it was probably enough, so I added a couple random ones. But then I didn't finish the row like that. The decreases don't look bad, but they somehow tightened the knit a lot. So on the second round after the decreases, when I had to like do the thing that I showed you of like pushing the stitches back onto the needle, the decreased stitches were really, really tight, and it was really annoying. But now, looking at the shape of it, I'm really glad that I did, because I think it's going to look really good. I'm going to try it on. I'm not going to film that because I'm lazy. Or I just don't want to set up the camera and my son's in the other room and stuff. But I'm gonna try it on, and then I'm gonna start figuring out the shaping for the armholes. And then I have a feeling I'm not gonna get it right on the first try. So I'm gonna try, and then once I'm happy, I think I'm gonna come back to you with like a final update before I show you the finished product. And a really funny thing is that it's moving along really quickly now that I have kind of figured out how to do it, but also because I'm on holiday. So I have lots of like hangout time. And today I've just like been waiting around for my family, and I realized when I left my house today, like packed up to go away for the weekend, then I'm gonna finish this project like maybe today or tomorrow, which means that I still have like 2 days or 3 days of holiday without a project. And I freaked out. And the next thing I'm gonna do is a big fillet project thing. I want to do like a very intricate, like a longer, more complicated thing than this. And I want to like make my own fillet project pattern and all that. And I bought the yarn, but I don't have the right size crochet hook. And I don't know if this happens to you, but I properly freaked out about like, oh no, I'm gonna be away from home on holiday for like a couple of days and I won't have a project. So now I'm trying to see if I can convince my husband to go buy me one. because he has to go back and forth to a city from where we are in the forest to like go to the shops. So maybe I could convince him to buy me a crochet hook when he goes, because I really want to get started on that, and I want to show you guys as well. I want to try to do a little bit like not so usual filet crochet, like more grungy maybe, and not the like flowers and romantic style. But we're still on this project now. I'm gonna go try it on properly, and I'm gonna start figuring out armholes. Okay, so I have cast everything off. I didn't really give you an in-between update when I started doing the shaping because I think I got it right on the first try by luck. and I didn't feel like it was kind of like relevant to update you in the middle. I was in the zone, so I'll just show you what I did now afterwards. So it's basically done. I have to join at the shoulders and I have to figure out how to hide the ends somehow, but basically this is what we are looking like. I'm sorry about my voice. I have gotten a tiny bit sick, so that's why my voice is hoarse, but that's okay. I am going to give you now a quick debrief of everything that I did, so that the world's worst knitting tutorial I can claim at least is a little bit of a tutorial. So if you know how to knit, you can kind of follow what I'm saying and you can follow along with what I did if you're interested. I also am not like that proficient of a knitter that I claim to say that this is the right way to do this. I just think that this was a fun thing to do. And if you want to try to do it the same way as me, you can, but also you don't have to. You can look up a pattern or you can make up your own or whatever. It's just fun, you know? So I cast on 16 stitches. And first, for the first, like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 rows, I was going forward and backwards on my needles, so doing a what is it called again? Now I'm lost in my English. I'll remember it in a minute, but basically this finish that you get, so that I was knitting in one direction and purling in the other direction. And let me grab the needles actually so I can so the knitting and purling itself, like the purl is a little bit difficult to do with the big needles, but the one trick that I got, that I kind of figured out for the tension, because the needles being so big, you kind of, at least I noticed that it was really easy to kind of start to also knit like really loosely, and I have a tendency to knit really loosely anyway. So the thing that really helped me was to try and think of having the needles like always touching each other. I know this is maybe super weird, but like when I would knit and I would take the needle and I would like let the needle separate, I would pull at it, and then when I would come back in, I would bring them back together, and that would make for a really, really loose knit. And you do want them to be loose enough so that, like I was showing you before, you have to be able to like pull the loop back on, which is a bit annoying, pull the stitch back on. But when I tried to focus on actually keeping the needles attached to each other the whole time, then like I was able to have a more like even and they wouldn't come out as loose, if that makes sense. The other thing that was kind of like with the finger that I was holding the yarn, that this arm was getting really tired because I felt like I was go really far and then I had to like move the finger far away from me, and then it would start to cramp. But then when I was trying to focus on kind of keeping the needles close together, then the finger holding the yarn didn't have to like adjust as much. It is really difficult to explain, but I hope you catch what I mean. But that's like the kind of quick tips that I have with working with needles this big. Yeah, so then after the 8 or 9 rows of going back and forth, knitting and purling, I joined in the round, and then I just knit in the round, and then I tried it on, and I noticed that it was still a little bit wide, and I realized that it was going to be really wide around the chest if I didn't do a little bit of shaping. So then as I was going along, I just kind of invented this shaping ratio where I knit 3 rows, and then on the 4th row I knit together every 10th stitch to the next one. So I reduced 5 stitches in one like row, then I knit 3, and then I reduced another 5 stitches, and then I lost track, and I think the next row I still reduced like 2 or 3, and then I was like, oh no, that's too many, and I stopped. So also the shaping isn't very even, but because the knit is so loose and it shows like all this stretching and errors and stuff, like I didn't really mind. And to be honest, I'm happy with the shape that came, the way that it came out, even though it wasn't like perfectly planned out. And then when I hit that point, I kind of noticed that the height was good. I kind of wanted to already start splitting for the armholes, so I did. And now even the way it's really hard to see like in this light and it not being on me, but I really like the way that it slightly flares at my hips and then gets a little bit tighter around like my waist. I hope it's also gonna look like that on me, but you're gonna see hopefully in the next clip. Yeah, then I calculated how many I had left. I don't actually remember now because it's been a couple of days. And I don't think the exact number really matters that much. If I have the energy, I might like put them up somewhere here. But after trying it on, I decided that I wanted to immediately start the armhole by casting off a couple. So I did some math that I divided the stitches in half, and then I cast off 4 in the armhole. Then I continued through the front, and then I started going back and forth again. And I actually did this so that because the needles were so big and the cable was so long, I kept the free loops of the back still on my needles, still on, like on the cable, and I was just going back and forth in the front. Again, knitting and purling back and forth. And then I tried it on, and once I was happy with that height for the front, I cast off just 1 at the center. And then again, I kept the extra stitches on my needle, and then here in the front I started to go back and forth so that at the same time from the armpit side and at the same time from the neck hole side I was knitting together a couple from the edges. Now I can't seem to find the right word in English for that either, when you reduce at like on the side. I think because I'm a bit sick, my brain doesn't work normally. Like I swear I speak English and I swear I know the knitting language, but right now I can't think of it. But this is kind of an unhinged video anyway, so it doesn't matter. If you know how to knit, you'll get what I mean. So when I started here, you can kind of see here are the 4 stitches that I cast off right away. Then when I started going back and forth, I knit together, I think 1 or 2, not very many, because the stitch is so loose you don't have to do a lot of shaping. And then once I hit the neck hole, I cast off 1 and then went back and forth, so that again here I think I knit together like 1 or 2 stitches until I got to the width of the strap that I wanted. And then the tricky part was kind of to which order do I continue on from here. So then actually this side is the one I knit second. So this was the side I knit first because there's no extra ends here. But then once I had done that, I cast off the shoulder edge or the top of the shoulder, and then I added added the yarn again, and then I just did the finishing chip on the other shoulder as well. And then the front was ready. And then when I moved on to the back side, I started by casting off the first 4 to make the armholes even. That's like, it's really difficult to explain because when you're knitting in the round, you kind of have to do like in these like sections. But when I did the first side, I cast off 4 and then I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then when I did the back side, I continued and I cast off 4 for the armhole, and then again I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, doing the same amount of like reductions for the shape. And then I just made a smaller neck hole on the back side. So when I got to the height that I wanted, I initially already, I think I cast off 5, and then I made a couple of reductions like this. But that's where we are right now. It looks really cool. I'm really happy with it. Like I've said a million times, if you try to do it in t-shirt yarn because it's gonna be much more durable than this situation here. I am like afraid of what's gonna happen if I get it wet. I don't think that I'm gonna block it because I don't think it's gonna make a huge difference. The only thing I think it's gonna do is like to drop the stitch down further, and it's at the exact height where I want it. So I think I'm gonna start wearing it like this and only get it wet if it actually like gets properly stained. This is not something that I'm gonna like sweat into a lot because I'm always gonna wear it with something on underneath. So I think I'm gonna get a couple of wears out of it before I actually have to get it wet, and then I'll worry about what happens to the stitch. But yeah, I also don't really know how this half like acrylic, half cotton yarn is gonna behave when it gets wet. But now I'm waiting to go back to the city actually today to get some clean clothes, and hopefully I'm gonna get my needle, and then if I have a chance I can shoot a little clip of me maybe styling it and wearing it after it's all finished. And then I might give you guys a last like final update on what I did with the ends and stuff. But yeah, this was a super fun like summer project. I have a birthday party coming up in a couple weeks, so I think I might wear this to the party, depending on what the weather is like. And I've already started on my next project while I was waiting to be able to finish this. So I will, you will be getting updates on that in the next video.
Okay, so I'm very happy. I have a couple of last notes and tips. I did have a hard time, now I'm losing my words again. I did have a hard time weaving in the ends. In the shoulders it was okay because there was a little bit more like stuff to hide the end in, But here at the edge, for example, I'll show you, hopefully you can see, I just kind of went into the bigger loops. Crap, can you see? I kind of, there we go, went into the bigger loops here, and then I made a little knot, and then I went through another loop and I made a knot, and then I just caught it at the end of the knot. Because there was literally nowhere to weave it into, so where I couldn't actually weave it in, I did that. I just like kind of looped it into the loop very like loosely, then made a knot, and then looped it in, and I made another knot. And it hides quite well. The other thing, just to keep in mind, like I don't really mind that it splits here like this. Here and at the back, it's like kind of uneven, and that you can see the ones that I knitted together here. I kind of like that it's a little bit like, looks like drop stitches, or just that it's more like frayed. And I don't actually know how you could mitigate that. Maybe by blocking you could mitigate it, if you blocked it and then like replace the stitching, but I'm not gonna do that. Like I said, I'm really happy with it. One thing that I do regret a tiny little bit is that I think the armholes ended up coming a bit too low for me. So I was hoping that I could have styled it with like short shorts, or like bike shorts and a bra. But I really don't like when the second layer, the armpit is lower than the bra itself, and my bra is like up here, my sports bra. So I tried it a couple of versions, like for this like very hot weather, just wear like tank top and shorts underneath, and it didn't really work because the armpits are so low and the neck is so low. So I ended up going with this button-up situation, and I really like the way that this looks with the matching button-up. I hope I'm gonna find a way to style it for hotter weather as well, but to be completely honest with you, where I live right now, the summer has sucked, like sucked hard. There has been, it's the end of June right now, and there has been one day where it was more than 25 Celsius. Which, like where I live, I live very, very, very up north in Europe, but still the summers are not normally like this. So I'm doing this whole like, let's make summer clothes. I was gonna make a bikini sewing video. I haven't had any chances to wear a bikini because it's not warm enough. So this styling with the button up is actually probably the most reasonable that I could do in my current weather circumstances. If the temperature starts to show, like the forecast starts to show that it's gonna get warmer soon, then I'm gonna make a bikini sewing video. But like all my plans for cute summer tank tops and stuff, it's way too cold. I'm wearing a jacket and a hoodie today outside because it's 12 Celsius in June. But that's not the point. The point is that my dress is amazing. I'm sorry this tutorial was a really shitty tutorial, but I wanted to show you anyway because I didn't see any videos of other people making garments like this. Very happy. My birthday party is in 2 days. I think I'm gonna wear this or a version of this depending on how much the weather sucks.